Welcome to the week 2 go-to session. This is the second of 4 such sessions we're having this month. Welcome back, everyone. Um, I think we have one more next week, and then we have spring break. Okay, so I'll keep everybody alerted about that because I had to set up all these lectures at once. So you'll get a reminder during spring break week that we're having a lecture on Tuesday night, but we're not. So I'll remind people that would be really sad. People show up. Where's the lecture? What's going on? And then I have to apologize because it was spring break. Okay, so welcome to week 2. Let me show where we are in the course right now. So here we are, right? So we just did week 1 things. I think everybody just about did awesome on the journal. There were a couple people who didn't really show strong indication that they watched the lecture, but that's expected in week 1. As students sort of learn what they expect from the assignment, but for the most part, everybody did awesome. Because remember, I just want to see proof that people did the reading and watched the lecture. Both are important, but lectures are more important, okay? Doesn't mean that you skip the reading, but as I said last week, I'm fine with occasional skimming or reading for gist, right? It's not that many pages, but certainly you don't have to memorize everything that you read. Just make your way through it. But yeah, the lectures are more important because, for example, this week's major assignment, I'm going to explain to you how it's not that difficult, and yet it is. I don't know. People can stumble if they don't watch the lecture. Um, Achieve modules are great. I do want to say that I should point out that the worksheets that you guys send in on Sunday night, I'm grading right now because I'm teaching 3 sections this month instead of the usual 2. I do have until Thursday at 5 p.m. to get them all graded. I hope to get through, if not all of them, then a huge chunk of them by tomorrow. But yeah, I'm still in the midst of grading them. The most important part of the worksheet, I look at all of it, of course, but the number one priority for me is that prompt number 9. Remember the one that asked you for 2 attempts at writing a thesis statement? Because if you don't have a working thesis statement, you're going to struggle with the next major assignment. Every student must have a strong thesis in order to move on to the next assignment and really set up everything for the entire class. Why? Because I think I showed a quick glance at it last week. Oops, that's not the one I needed. Where's my essay? There it is. Okay, so I've done well, not all. I've done the outline assignment, which is what we're working on this week. Okay, so that's what this guy is. 2.5, step 2, organizing. Due this Sunday. It's an outline. Actually, let me go into the activity. And you can read through all this on your own, but here you go. So there's another template you get to use. It even says use this to complete the assignment. You have 2 examples, okay? You've got my example here based on the Jeep ad that we looked at in last week's lecture. And if you click on this link, you can see a past student example. But yeah, I did the outline for week 2, and I also wrote an ad analysis essay because I wanted to see what it was like to complete the assignments that I give people, but at the same time, it's a learning experience because I thought I would just bang out this paper in like an hour or 2. After all, I've been writing for nearly, 35, 40 years. I'm older than that, but I've probably only been writing since the age of 10 or so, seriously. And yeah, so I was a little bit cocky. Like, I can do this. I'd chosen this Jeep ad because it looked interesting. I sort of knew what I wanted to say about it. And 8 to 10 hours later, I was finished. So it's a reminder that the assignments that we give to students aren't really that easy because writing is never easy. It gets easier over time, but it's never easy. You keep doing it. You keep facing the same thing every time, which is staring at a blank page and wondering how you're going to find inspiration, how you're going to kick things off. For example, I had to find a way into this essay, and so I just riffed on the idea of Jeep. Jeep, the well-known brand, practically markets itself with its reputation for, reputation for ruggedness, independence, and adventure. Then I found a nifty quotation about how Jeep is the most copied brand of American vehicles. That was interesting. I didn't know that. And then I say that that's hardly surprising because the Jeep spirit is hardwired into our cultural consciousness. We can easily picture a driver behind the wheel of a Jeep, downshifting around a snaking mountain bend, or kicking up dust through the sun-baked Australian outback, or zooming past zebras grazing the Serengeti. Then I get into the ad itself. So all this was set up, and I'm mentioning this because the outline you're going to do for this week, it asks you to come up with a hook. So this is my hook, right? I'm going to riff on the idea of Jeep in a way that hopefully most people can relate to. Then I get into the ad itself and I briefly describe it. I mention the ad by name. Jeep's see whatever you want to see ad. Embraces the sport of feelings that such a vehicle invokes. And I describe it briefly. Because the general reader, in a bit I'm going to talk about how your audience is the general reader, okay? So it's not someone who knows necessarily what your ad is or what it's about, so I take a brief moment just to describe it. And finally, there's my thesis. As you can see, it's highlighted. Remember last week I talked about the importance of threes, and I would repeat it all month like a broken record. You have to spot three things going on in your ad. So far on the worksheet, some people have done awesome. They've either already spotted three great things or they have two great things and they just need maybe a little bit of help finding a third, stronger thing. Some people have three things listed, which is awesome in the sense that their thesis definitely looks like a thesis, but maybe those three things that are listed are kind of very summary-ish or purely descriptive, but that's still a good sign because I can then suggest ideas. At least the shape of the thesis is right. And then, in a couple cases, they weren't thesis statements at all, and I sort of had to repeat what I'm discussing right now. But as you can see, this is important because, for example, here's the thesis for the Jeep ad. Through the use of simple color, that's 1. Playful imagery, 2. And a double meaning tagline that reinforces theme, 3. The see whatever you want to see ad appeals to the inner adventurous side. Everyone to unlock a hidden enthusiasm for Jeep. Okay, so the green highlights those three things that I noticed in the ad: color, imagery, tagline. Be careful because lots of ads have taglines, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be terribly interesting. I have a lot of people sometimes who pick the Call of Duty ad and they choose tagline, and it's like, okay, but the tagline for the Call of Duty ad is "There's a soldier in all of us." That doesn't really need to be explained. Like, that's pretty self-explanatory. So unless you're going to do something interesting, you have an interesting discussion that's going to be attached to that. But again, that's where I usually help people. But as you can see, the three things set up the structure for the entire paper, because color, imagery, tagline become your next three paragraphs. So first issue is color. Here's my paragraph all about the ad's use of color. And I do think for a lot of you, you're probably going to follow a pretty similar structure for these middle paragraphs, okay, the body paragraphs, in the sense that there'll be a clear topic sentence, which is the sentence that makes it clear what this paragraph is going to be about. It's kind of like the thesis for that particular paragraph. So a clear topic sentence, then explain the issue, okay? Describe it in the ad. The general reader may not know your ad or may not know it as well as you do. So I take the time to explain the color in the ad. That's a simple background of camel mesh. The beige background is reminiscent of fabric or textiles, like a burlap sack, a tawny canvas tent, khaki clothing. The color might also suggest environment, dusty paths, windswept dunes, right? So I'm kind of explaining things to the reader. Then I get into explaining it, that this color choice is no accident, for it reinforces Jeep's outdoorsy image. I find some nifty quotations that reinforce this. Okay, I have kind of a cincher line. The color scheme works to promote the rugged off-roading image that the ads campaign's creators clearly desire. Then I move on to my next point, imagery. Signaled in a clear opening sentence, I describe the issue, explain it, have some relevant research to kind of reinforce what I'm saying, and kind of have, a cincher line or two that ties everything together. Move on to the next issue, tagline, and do the same thing. Finally, there's a short conclusion where I echo what the essay has already covered, that the ad's basic elements, color, imagery, wording, produce maximum results, and then a couple lines that bring things to a close. My question to the people who are here with us. We have 7 people here: Blaine, Juliana, Hiba, Michael, Savannah, Stephen, Miss Anderson. Does this all make sense to you people so far? Like what we're aiming for? It's a 5-paragraph essay. Yes, no, maybe so. I mean, it really is as simple as, let me see what people are saying in the chat. Yes, okay. I apologize if this is like dumbing down things too much, but because there really are a lot of students who have never heard of these things before. Thesis, 5-paragraph structure. It'd be as simple as, imagine if the assignment for this class were really simple, like something you would do in junior high, like middle school. Like, tell me about what you did in your summer vacation. You had a thesis that said, during summer vacation, I went hiking, spent time with friends, and traveled to California. I hate this new Mac keyboard. It is so shallow that I just cannot like find a grip, my fingers. Okay. A thesis, right? 3 things that I did over summer vacation. Went hiking, spent time with friends, traveled to California. So a 5-paragraph structure would be first paragraph, introduction, where you find some sort of hook, like maybe you talk about summer vacation, summertime, how awesome summertime it is to be out of school, blah, 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 right? Uh, Hook, some general comments, and then you end with your thesis. Then you have your 3 body paragraphs. So body paragraph number 1, where you discuss hiking. And then body paragraph number 2, where you discuss friends. Okay, spending time with friends. Then you have body paragraph number 3, where you talk about Cali. And then a conclusion, right? So even if, again, I apologize if this sounds like I'm dumbing down things too much, but really this is what we're doing. Same thing. The only difference is you're doing this with an ad analysis essay. So it won't be something as simple as during my summer I did A, B, and C. Rather, it's I've looked at this ad and I will be discussing A, B, and C. Okay, you won't literally say that, like use the word I on the page, but no, that's essentially what you're doing. And keep this in mind, because what happens is for people who don't watch the lecture, or people who sort of just guess at what needs to be done on the outline assignments, because it is in the form of a template. Here's the empty template. Because the week 1 worksheet was also kind of template-like, you had this form. It had 10 prompts. You needed to answer them. Sometimes people take a look at this second assignment and think, oh, another worksheet. And instead of seeing this for what it is, they just answer these things in isolation, kind of randomly. But that's not what it is. Each Roman numeral in this blank outline template represents one of those 5 paragraphs. So Roman numeral number 1 is your introduction paragraph. And it asks for 3 things. A 1-sentence hook, enticing your audience to read more. Okay? So again, like, how do you think you're going to begin your essay? Where's my Jeep essay again? Right? So in my Jeep example, all this is my opening hook. But I'm just asking you to write a single opening sentence. Okay? Just to give me some idea of how you think you're going to kick things off. That's it, just a 1-sentence hook. But that's what the hook means, right? Your papers don't just begin in the middle of things. You don't just dive into analysis. The introduction is a general paragraph that sets up the paper as a whole. So how do you think you're going to begin that essay? Give me some idea with 1 sentence. Second, a concise description of the ad, just 2 or 3 sentences or 4. Okay, but this is not what you just did with the worksheet, where it asks for, I think, a detailed description of the ad as if you were explaining it to someone who had never seen it. This is a concise description, just a couple sentences, just to give them the gist of what it's about, right? Which is what I do here. So I got 1, 2, yeah, I got 3 sentences. Right, so that's what you're doing, just the gist. Just a quick overview or summary of the ad so that the general reader knows what it's about. And finally, the outline template asks for a 1-sentence thesis statement. And you should be in good shape because your worksheet either has a working thesis or I've given you feedback on how to make it into a solid thesis. But that's where you would put your thesis statement, right? So in this paper here, it's this guy. And again, you do have a completed example to study. So here's the same document, but it's filled in. And you have this to download. So here's my introduction. 1-sentence hook. Jeep, the well-known brand, practically markets itself with its reputation for ruggedness, independence, and adventure. Okay, just 1 sentence. In your essay, yeah, you're probably going to develop it past a single sentence. But for here, I just want a 1-sentence preview of how your essay may begin. Then here's my concise description of the ad. And then here's my thesis. Okay. And then the rest of the outline is your other paragraphs. So Roman numeral 2, body paragraphs, topic sentence, identifying the first specific rhetorical strategy in your thesis. This is just fancy speak for give me a sentence that introduces your first thesis point, right? So your thesis listed 3 things. This should be the first thing in a clear sentence. So if we look at the completed example, here, let me get rid of the essay for now. Yes, I have too many documents open. Okay. So remember, through the use of simple color, playful imagery. So the first issue is color. So for my topic sentence, here's my topic sentence, clearly making it obvious that the topic is color. The ad is an exercise in simplicity, especially in its use of color. And here, I'll just stick with the completed outline. Then ask for one sentence describing a detail from the ad that is part of the rhetorical strategy. That's just fancy speak for, okay, here's your topic sentence establishing your first thesis point. Give me one piece of evidence that you plan to make in your discussion. Give me another detail or point that you plan to make in support of this topic. Okay, the outline, maybe I should have started this way. I'm assuming maybe too much that we know what an outline is. An outline is like a blueprint. Okay, it's a plan for your essay. It's like the skeleton. And if your outline is in good shape, then you just have to hang flesh on it, right? You have to make that body whole. But here it's just, we're putting down main ideas. So you're not writing entire paragraphs. Actually, I don't want to see entire paragraphs here because you're not writing the essay yet. You're just getting down your ideas. So topic sentence. Okay, one point you plan to make in support of that topic. A second point you plan to make in your essay. Okay, you'll write the essay draft next week in support of your topic. Research. Yes, this is where we begin to look at research. So it asks for you to find a quotation along with an APA citation. We're going to talk about APA later, so don't worry too much about that right now. Okay, but yeah, you just need to find a relevant quotation. I found two and put them in there. And then, a sentence explaining why this research is relevant. As I explained here, neutral colors are used primarily for backgrounds, just like in the Jeep ad, and neutrals and browns connect thematically to nature, which is also invoked in the ad, okay? Because that's what both quotations say. Then you just repeat. Roman numeral 3 is your second body paragraph. It's your third paragraph overall, but it's your second body paragraph. Begin with a topic sentence that makes it clear what the topic is. If I go back up to my thesis, color, imagery, tagline. Okay, so the second thing to discuss is imagery. So here's a clear topic sentence, which makes it clear the topic is imagery for this paragraph. One sentence you plan to make that's in support of this topic. A second point you plan to make in your essay about this topic. Relevant research. Here I found a nifty quotation that's directly about imagery, along with an in-text citation, an explanation of why the research is relevant. Then I move on to my fourth paragraph, my third body paragraph, which is where I discuss my third thesis point, which is the ad's tagline. Topic sentence. One point I plan to make in support of that topic sentence. A second point I plan to make. Relevant research. Explanation why the research is relevant. And then finally the conclusion, where it asks you to rephrase your thesis statement. Okay, so you're not just copying and pasting the same way you worded it earlier. And then a couple sentences that you are taking a stab at how your essay could possibly end. And by the way, you might change that. You probably will. But at least I want you to get thinking about how maybe the essay will close down. And finally, you'll have a references page. Okay, but we're going to get into this later because this gets into issues of APA. Is everybody with me? Does this all make sense? Does anybody have questions about the outline? It really is simple. Okay, I didn't save that document where I used the example of what I did over summer vacation, but it's really the same thing. Okay, your thesis should have three things you've noticed in your ad, and those three things are going to become your three body paragraphs. And if you can remember that each body paragraph, each Roman numeral, represents a separate paragraph in your essay, you should be fine. But people get into trouble when they treat it just like a worksheet and just answer these things in isolation because there's no rhyme or reason. It's just random content. So no, you have to kind of see the big picture here. We're working toward a 5-paragraph essay. And again, you have examples. So if you're ever confused, just open up. You have this Jeep outline. So kind of do the same thing, just with your chosen ad. Now, I've sort of done things backwards in that normally I begin with the slides, the lecture, but I thought it was more useful just to jump right into the assignments. I think it actually makes more sense when I jump into the assignment and explain things carefully instead of just, going through lecture slides, which don't really show you the assignment. But you need my feedback on your worksheet, by the way, because if not, none of this will make any sense. So yeah, I'm under some pressure to grade your worksheets and get you feedback on your thesis because you can't move forward until you have a working thesis. So now, let me get back to the lecture, or the lecture slides, I should say. Welcome to week 2. um, This is just stuff we went over last week. Okay, so here's another picture of the writing process. Week 1, we were here brainstorming. Week 2, we are on this arm or leg or whatever you want to call it. So researching, investigating, and organizing. Okay, because the outline is an organizing activity. Next week we'll get into here, actually drafting. And I believe, yeah, you're in good luck because you actually have 2 weeks to work on the essay draft because spring break interrupts the normal due date for that essay draft. So you'll get next week plus all of spring break to work on your essay. That's pretty cool. So who is your audience for this assignment? I mentioned it earlier. It's the general reader. And let me get away from this real quickly just to show an example of what I'm talking. Sometimes this thing sticks. Okay. So I have 10 million Microsoft Word windows open, but I'm going to open one more. Actually, no, I think I have a blank document already open somewhere. Oh, I used it for that. Okay, let me open another one. So when I say the general reader, for instance, I sometimes see essay drafts. Sometimes I see it in the outline too, but definitely like in week 3 when you actually sit down to write the essay itself, I'll see essays that literally begin like this. In this ad, the guy is on his first day of work. Anybody want to show off and guess at what commercial this is or print ad? Anybody recognize what ad is being discussed here when it says in this ad, the guy's on his first day of work? I mean, you didn't have to look at all the ads that were in the approved list, but maybe some of you. Yeah, good. Savannah gets a prize, which is nothing more than my admiration. But good job, McDonald's. But here's the thing with the general reader, and by general reader, I mean like someone off the street, some Jane Doe, some Joe Schmo. Imagine that you've left your paper behind on a library table or a cafeteria table. Someone picks it up and decides to start reading it. Would you have any idea what ad is being discussed? No. And this is an example. I see this a lot. Where in the student's head, it's completely clear what ad they're talking about because, well, of course it's a McDonald's ad. I know that. The teacher can figure it out. And yeah, I can figure it out. But good writing, you don't do that. You have to hold the reader's hand a bit. Doesn't mean you have to explain everything. You don't have to explain that McDonald's is a fast food restaurant. Everybody knows that. But you take the time to do things like this. In the McDonald's, ad, first day. Andy, an anxious millennial, is on his first day of work. I'd like to avoid the repetition of first day, but I could work on that later. But can you see the difference? Like this does make sense to anyone. This one does, right? It's very specific. Okay, Savannah say, I'm glad you're addressing it because this someone submitted the worksheet. That's fine. The worksheet is not as high stakes of an activity in terms of this. But yeah, come essay time, I see this a lot. And they think it's okay because the title of their essay is, for example, like McDonald's ad analysis. I really hate this keyboard. It drives me nuts. Right? Like this is the title of their paper. And they're like, but it's mentioned right here, McDonald's. Yeah, but your title cannot do the work for your actual sentences. Like your sentences still have to make sense. And it's not just the first sentence of an essay. Sometimes in the middle of a paragraph, there's a sentence, and I wish I had an example because it's hard to describe without examples, but I can just see like the student is thinking too much in their head. And it happens to all of us. The difference is I catch it. Like when I review what I've written, even if it's an email, like I can spot sentences where, oh, that's not clear. I need to go back and make that clear because the ideas in our head always make sense to us, but they don't automatically make sense to another person. A good way to check for this is to read from the perspective of someone who is not you. Okay, pick up your own work and read it as if you're just that Joe Schmo or Jane Doe. Okay, pretend it's a paper that's been left behind. If you read from that perspective, someone who is not you, you should be able to spot those moments throughout your writing, where things make absolute sense to you, but wouldn't make sense to anyone else. Okay, so yeah, general reader is your readership. Okay, that's your intended audience. So keep that in mind. What is an essay? Well, an essay could actually technically be anything. Let me take a sip of my coffee. It could be a video. A YouTube video could be an essay. But yeah, for this class, it's more traditional in the sense that it's a short piece of nonfiction writing on a particular subject, and it is a short piece. We don't have page count requirements, but we do have a word count suggestion. Your essay should be between 700 and 1400 words. My Jeep essay, here it is. I think it's here. Let's do it real quickly. Actually, no, it shows the word count here, but that's a little bit confusing because it includes things like the cover page, the references, not really the essay itself. If we just look at the content of the essay, it is, I think it's around 900 words, maybe. Yeah, 925. And this paper is exactly 3 pages, just a little bit shy of 3 pages. So it's not terribly long. So yeah, your paper is probably going to be in the 800 to 900 word group. I rarely see papers that are over 4 pages. There's just not enough material. Um, but yeah, we're working toward a 5 paragraph essay, and in order to write an introduction, a conclusion, and to discuss with thoughtfulness and care the 3 things you've noticed in the ad, each in its own paragraph, that will easily fill up, let's say, 2.5 pages. Okay, those 5 paragraphs will take up that much space. So yeah, between 700 and 1400 words is the length, which is a short essay. Okay, believe me, essays get much longer if you continue on with education. By the time you get to graduate school, we would typically write 20 or 25 page papers. So 2 to 3 pages is very short. I won't fly through it, but we've already discussed this. Essay structure. There's an introduction. We don't just dive right into the middle of things. We don't just jump right in and start analyzing the ad. We set things up first. By the way, if you want to test this theory, go out onto internet land. The only rule is you have to find something that's written by, someone who's an actual writer. Okay, someone who's either paid or has a position. It's where it's their job to write. So a video game review, or a feature on a video game, or an artist you admire, or a sports story, you will see that they don't just dive right into the middle of things. Okay, there's some sort of introduction or setup. Then there's support. This is the body. Okay, there's the middle section of the paper. This is where you get into specifics. That's why it says support. This is where you start getting into the actual ad analysis itself. And then you have some sort of conclusion. And really, if you can remember these basics, which I know a lot of you already know, but again, we have some people who have never been introduced to these concepts before. This is the shape that just about all writing, especially formal or semi-formal writing, takes. Some sort of introduction or beginning, some sort of ending or conclusion, and then a middle section where you discuss things one topic at a time. You'd be amazed how many pieces of writing follow this basic structure. So it's not that I'm terribly interested in ad analysis, even though I do think it's fun. I know it doesn't seem fun to you, but I kind of got into it. And it's not that every piece of writing will have exactly 5 paragraphs, or every piece of writing must have a thesis that automatically says, lists 3 things. No. That's more for this assignment in this class. But the takeaway is that for future classes or for future writing, that you should understand this basic overall shape. Okay, and here's just presented visually that the introduction sets the stage for the rest of your essay, and it typically ends with your thesis statement. Okay, so that's going to be the final sentence of your introduction. Then comes the body, and this is where you develop your ideas. Okay, this is where you're going to perform your analysis. I know here it talks more generally about your thoughts on the topic, conclusions you've come to. You're not really going to be speaking out loud on the page with your thoughts, but obviously the analysis you'll be doing will be capturing what you have to say about the ad you've chosen. Okay, but yeah, this is the meat. Think of it like a sandwich. Introduction is one piece of bread. Conclusion, which we'll get to in a second, is like the other piece of bread. In the middle is the meat. Okay, or if you're a vegetarian, the veggies, cheese. Conclusion. This is where you remind readers where you've been. That's why we ask you to reword your thesis. And it's here to set readers down gently. I kind of prefer just to find the right note on which to end your piece of writing. Okay, so introduction, body, conclusion. And it's here that you do analysis. So no, the introduction is not the place to start expressing why the ad uses this color scheme. This is not the place to start explaining why the Call of Duty ad uses the Rolling Stones song, Gimme Shelter. Okay, that belongs here. Thesis we talked about last week, so I'm going to skip this slide if it's okay. I think I even gave you a template, or I created one on the spot last week where I said the blank ad uses blank, blank, and blank, as in the McDonald's ad uses, actually I should use Jeep because I don't want to give people ideas. The Jeep ad uses color, imagery, and a meaningful tagline to blah, blah, blah. Okay. Paragraph structure, we've already covered this as well. You begin with a topic statement or a topic sentence. This is like the thesis for that paragraph. It lets readers know what the paragraph is going to be about. Then you get into, really, it's almost like the body paragraphs are the essay, but on a smaller scale, where you have a topic sentence, kind of like a thesis, then a body, where you get into the specifics, and then the paragraph ends with like a conclusion, a center line or two that consolidates everything. Right? So when we looked at the Jeep essay, remember I said that this is pretty much the strategy that you will probably use? Topic, here it's color. Explanation of the issue, okay? Describe it for the reader. Then get into explaining it, why it's important, analyzing. Find some piece of research, quotation to support what you're saying, and then find a closing line or two. Okay, so that general movement is what you'll be doing, I think, pretty much all of you in your body paragraphs. Okay, there we go. Research. Okay, so this is what we have to spend the rest of the time talking about. And I need to get away from this presentation in order to do so. So you need 3 pieces of research. Why? Because, we're setting it up so that you'll have one quotation or one piece of research in each of your 3 body paragraphs. This is why the outline templates, here's the outline again, okay? This is why in each of the 3 body paragraph sections, so Roman numerals 2, 3, and 4, those middle paragraphs, each section here asks for a sentence incorporating a research quote, including citation, that supports your claim. Again, just fancy speak for find me a quotation that's relevant to your topic at hand. So here, because the topic is the ad's use of color, I did some research into color theory to find that earth tones are usually reserved for backgrounds. Remember the Jeep ad we looked at last week? Yeah, the background in that ad was an earth tone, that beige sort of khaki color. And I found a second quote. I didn't need 2 quotes, but I just went overboard. And while these colors may indeed be largely relegated to backdrop, quote, neutrals and browns are the epitome of nature. I like that too because the Jeep ad is playing with notions of nature, okay? Because Jeep is strongly connected to the outdoors. So it was useful to find a quotation that said that neutrals and browns, and again, the background for that ad was a kind of neutral, a beige, that it's the epitome of nature. Same thing for the next body paragraph, which was about imagery. I found this nifty quote here. When rotated, each of the vintage drawn animals becomes another species, leaving the viewer to choose which one he or she prefers, playing on their perceptions. So that was pretty awesome. Savannah asked, do the articles need to be from a certain date to present? Not really, but you probably do want to use things that are somewhat recent. No, you don't have to worry about it being from like 2016 or later. But probably the information you're going to find is going to be recent or somewhat recent. But yeah, like things like color theory, right? So those comments I found about color. This one's from 2010, but we're talking about color. Color doesn't really change. This one's from 2012, right? So yeah, that's still in my mind fairly recent. So, and then here's another one, the paragraph on tagline. I actually did something more interesting with tagline. I just didn't literally tell people what the tagline said and meant because that's pretty obvious. But I connected this great idea of versatility. Because if you remember the ad from last week, looked at one way, the animal looks like a giraffe's head. Looked at another way, it looks like a penguin. So that versatility, that looked at one way, it's one kind of animal. Looked at another way, it isn't. Then the tagline has a double meaning. See whatever you want to see. That could refer to the animal, see whatever animal you want to see. Or it could refer to Jeep itself, that in a Jeep, you have the ability to see whatever you want to see, right? You can go wherever you want to go. So yeah, I talked about how this tagline is subtly reinforcing the Jeep image and brand, because when we think of Jeep, we think of them as versatile automobiles. They can be great for off-roading or for hauling children. They can be great for hauling lumber or hauling groceries, right? So I kind of focused on that. So I found a nifty uh, detail here that this guy, J.M. Fenster, said that the Jeep, a wartime American creation, was valued by soldiers for its versatility. Okay, so I found something that connected. So yeah, you're going to have to find at a minimum 3 quotes. So we're talking about 3 sources. So you can use 1 per body paragraph where you discuss each of those 3 things you noticed in the ad. You have 1 source that's already provided for you if you wish to use it. And it's pretty much included in the instructions for every major assignment from here on out. It's this video here, Pathos, Ethos, and Logos in Advertising. So if you wish to use this video, which is created by a guy named Matt Rosano, yeah, this can be one of your 3 sources, and then you just have to find 2 more. If you do use this video, which is great, it's terrific, right? Why find 3 sources if one of them's already been provided for you? Please do something more interesting with it than just telling me that pathos is the appeal to emotion. You could have said that on your own. That's just a dictionary definition of the word pathos. So yeah, don't just define what these words mean. Okay, you could have done that without the video. So do try to pull something more interesting from the video that you can connect to your analysis. I'm also cool with, if you don't want to use this video, you don't have to. I think in some of our language, either on the FSO platform or maybe in some of the assignments, it says that you must use this video. But if you don't want to and just want to find 3 sources of your own, I'm cool with that. My Jeep essay, by the way, has 6 sources. So yeah, I went a bit overboard. Okay, and here they are on the references page. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I wasn't trying to show off. I just, I don't know. I found lots of interesting things and found a way to include them in the essay without overwhelming the essay, like with too much research. No, I found these 6 things. Okay, you just have to find 3. Now, this video can be one of them. That leaves 2 more. One should come from the Full Sail Library database, and then the final one can come from anywhere. Like it can come from online. It can be from the database again. We now have a new thing called Full Sail 1. In the past, it was Full Sail Connect. I have to admit, I still don't know exactly how to find the library. I just found this announcement for library hours. That when I click on it, it just tells me the hours. But when I click on this, so you might have to do some guessing to get to the library. Oh, what do I have to do here? Oh, someone showed me this the other day, and now I've forgotten. Once you're in library, about? Yeah, go to the About tab. Okay. I'm wondering if I have to start from the very beginning, what's the quickest way for you guys to get in? Okay, so you'll see a page like this, I think. And in the past, it was really easy because there was a menu of items. You just clicked on library. So how do you get to the library from here if you don't know how? I mean, obviously in this lecture I've just shown you, but I'm saying in the future. Learn? No, that doesn't do anything. Connect? That just brings me back to where I was. Okay, so if you're on Connect, was that menu on the left when I originally started? No. Okay, so if you're from the home page, click Connect, then Departments maybe? Yeah, Departments, then Library, then About. They really have to streamline this. In the old version of Full Sail Connect, you could get to the library in 2 clicks. But does that make sense to people? You find the library, and then from below, library research databases. Okay, and here are all the database listings. EBSCOhost is probably where you'll go. What used to be called LexisNexis, which is now called Nexus Uni, is another popular one. Okay, Nexus Uni tends to search for more everyday things like newspapers, whereas EBSCOhost, it will check those things as well, but it tends to search for like academic journals etc. But EBSCOhost is a really good place to begin. If I click on that, you can actually, EBSCOhost isn't a single database. It's a collection of databases like Academic Search Complete, Business Source Complete, but you can search them all at once just by clicking the Select All tab and clicking Continue. Now, here's an important disclaimer I have to make. Research takes time. A big reason why it took me 8 to 10 hours to write that JEEP essay is because about 4 of it was spent doing research. So even though I have 6 sources here for my finished JEEP essay, it took me hours to find these. Because yeah, I'd visit a website that was about color, but I wouldn't find anything useful for the color in my ad, right? It doesn't help me very much if I'm not going to find the information that I need. Same thing with these other sources, okay? I say this because I already have something that's going to trigger a result, but it's not going to be that simple for you, okay? So be patient, use lots of different keywords. It's not going to be as simple as just putting McDonald's and color, okay? Because you'll get 10 billion results and none of them will probably be relevant to your ad. If you're discussing something like the ad's use of color, maybe, yeah, looking into color theory. If you already know what sorts of colors are used in your ad, for example, in the Jeep ad, I wanted to talk about earth tones, right? Because that background was sort of beige or sandy. So I already knew what I wanted to find, which was some sort of comment about how such an earth tone connects to nature. And I was able to find that. So yeah, you're probably not going to just put in the name of your ad and the name of your thesis point. You'll have to do something specific. But in this case, I'm going to use the Call of Duty ad. And in this case, it kind of is a little bit easier because I'm going to type Call of Duty. Why is it making things disappear? Call of Duty and Gimme Shelter. Okay, the name of the song that's used in that ad. Now, I only get 3 results, but I'm looking for this one here. Okay. By the way, you should, if you want to, click full text because not everything is truly available. Sometimes you only get an abstract, which is a summary of the article. Like, here's the abstract, not the actual article itself. So if you want to make sure that you're only getting the full articles, you can click on full text. You can limit the dates if you want. But here we go. Gimme Sales, published in Billboard Magazine by Ann Donahue. It's a really, really short article. And at first glance, it doesn't look like it's terribly useful. Because remember, if you've looked at the Call of Duty ad, and I'm guessing that we probably have a couple people here who are using the Call of Duty ad. And I think I might have mentioned this last week, but if I didn't, I'll repeat it. It uses a song by the Rolling Stones called Gimme Shelter. Yes, it's a well-known song or a fairly well-known song. Yes, it's kind of upbeat and energetic, matching the feel of the ad. And all that is important, but it's more than that. Because any song could have been used in if they just wanted a famous song that is energetic and can match the feel of the ad, right? Thousands of songs could have been chosen. But why did they choose this one? And of course, answering that question is analysis, because analysis seeks to answer the question, why? Why did they choose the Rolling Stones' Gimme Shelter? At first, it doesn't seem to be on topic because it's not giving any information about what the song's about or why it might be absolutely fitting for this ad. But there is some interesting information here. According to Activision Vice President of Music Affairs Tim Riley, scoring, that just means obtaining, the song for the ad was no small feat or accomplishment. Okay, because it turns out this guy had to fly to New York, get permission to use the song, actually had to show an early edit of the ad to the Rolling Stones themselves to get their approval as well. So even though this isn't explaining why the song is appropriate for the ad, it is kind of secondary proof that they definitely wanted this song, right? Like, why would you go to such lengths to get this song if all you needed was an upbeat song that's energetic and it sounds cool when the ad is playing? No, they clearly wanted this song. You'd still have to do more research to find out why this song. Anybody who's using the Call of Duty ad for their assignment, I'll give you a hint. Think of when Call of Duty Black Ops is set. But yeah, I might take something from here, right? You can have more than one piece of research in one of your body paragraphs. So I might take something from here just as proof that clearly they wanted this song, not just any song. Let's see. Savannah says, any specific terms you can share about what we should be looking for with the video ads? Savannah, I haven't gotten to your worksheet yet. So which ad are you have you chosen for this month? McDonald's. Okay, and I haven't taken a look at your worksheet yet, so I don't know if you have 3 terrific discussion points already, or if you're going to need to maybe improve them. Um, but McDonald's is a good example where you don't have to choose this as one of your 3 points, but color is an aspect of the McDonald's ad. Okay. Um, the early scenes in the office are typically dull. Lots of grays, whites, blacks, because the office is dull. That's how it's presented. The guy wants to escape from the work environment. So it's not terribly surprising that it's filmed in dull gray colors. Then when he gets to McDonald's, things are much brighter, much more colorful, right? Those reds and yellows that are literally the McDonald's colors. So yeah, for you, a good example would be to do research into like color theory. Sans, as I meant as far as researching. Yeah, well, I mean, I think I'm kind of covering the same thing. Here's the thing: your research is almost entirely going to work to support your 3 discussion points, right? So your thesis is going to say something like the McDonald's ad uses blank, blank, and blank. The McDonald's ad uses color, and then 2 other things. And yeah, your research should be relevant to those 3 thesis points. Okay. Hopefully this makes sense, because sometimes I say thesis points, sometimes I say analysis points, sometimes I say discussion points, but really those 3 things that you have listed in your thesis, though, that's what you should be finding something that is relevant and useful. By the way, I do have one more trick, which is what I call reverse engineering. When I use the example of the Jeep ad, when I said I wanted to find information, a useful quotation that said something about earth tones or about neutrals and browns, because the Jeep ad has this beige kind of sandy background. That was a case where I already knew what I wanted to say. It's just I had to find a quote that said it. And that puts you in a pretty awesome situation, because you just have to go out and find that quote. You already know what to look for. It's just you need to go find it. So that's why I call it reverse engineering. Otherwise, yeah, you're going to probably, if you're doing, if one of your discussion points has to do with camera work, okay, maybe the pacing of the camera work is important, or the angles that are used. You might do general search terms into, yeah, camera angles or camera work, how like camera editing affects mood, or how it affects an audience's reaction. Okay. But yeah, this is kind of an exception where I was able to just put in Call of Duty and the name of the song used in the ad. But normally, yeah, you're probably not going to be doing research into the company itself. So, yeah, good questions. Now, one final thing we have to cover, and the good news is I don't really have enough time to cover it in full, but that works out great for you, because if you look at the worksheet, it asks for, oh, that's the essay. It asks for, within the outline itself, quotations, right, for each of the body paragraph sections, with an APA citation. And at the very end, it asks for a list of references. I don't have enough time in this session to get into APA, how to create references, how to create in-text citations. That's going to be next week's lecture. Next week's lecture, it's not going to be very sexy, but I promise it might be the most useful, because I'm going to open up a blank Microsoft Word document next week, and I'm going to walk through the steps of how to set up your essay. So, for example, how to make it look the right way, layout, how to create in-text citations, how to create references, all in real time. But for this week, for the outline, because you do have to create, let me get rid of this, because you do have to create in-text citations, references for the outline. Here's my bargain I'm going to make with you. I want you to do the best job that you can. So when it asks for a quotation and an APA in-text citation, I want you to either open up the sample essay. You have a Jeep essay to look, Jeep outline to look at, and do the exact same thing the Jeep outline is doing. Okay, so for example, in the section on color, right, here's one quotation. And by the way, you can do this. You can take just a few words or phrase. You don't have to take whole sentences, and you shouldn't be taking giant paragraphs. But okay, here's a quotation, and here's a citation. Author's last name, year, page number, or paragraph number. Because sometimes online sources don't have page numbers, so you just count the paragraphs. What paragraph does a quotation appear in? Here's another one, a quotation. citation, last name, year, comma, page or paragraph number. Here's another one. Okay, here's a quotation. Here it is, an entire sentence, but it's just one sentence. Last name, comma, year, comma, page or paragraph number. The other place you should go, and I'm going to type it right in the chat, is projectapa.info. Okay, I would recommend bookmarking this. This was made by a fellow Full Sail English teacher. And if you go to in-text citations, just go to the very first one. Formats for quotation. Yeah, just imitate the examples. Okay, we're going to get into this next week because there are always two ways you can do it. And it's going to take me time to explain this. So this week I'm not going to. I'm just going to tell you to imitate. So imitate this or imitate this, right? Because you always have a choice. You can mention the author's name in your actual sentence, like according to Newman or according to John Newman. And if you do mention the author in your actual sentence, it's just a rule. You put the year in parentheses, deliver the quotation, and then at the very end, you put a page or paragraph number. Or you just find your own natural way to lead into the quotation and save everything for the end. Last name, year, page or paragraph number. Okay. So, but for now, just, choose one format and imitate it. Or go to the Jeep outline and imitate the citations there. Same thing for references. You can go to the Jeep outline. Here the references are the same. So let me just go there. And do the same thing with your sources. Okay. Author's last name, comma, first initial, a date in parentheses, then the title of the article, then the name of the publication, and then a retrieved from line. Okay, so, or you can go to projectapa.info and go to references page and find the appropriate one. A lot of you will probably be either newspapers, magazines, and databases, or maybe websites, but find the example that you're using. So if you found an article from a newspaper, here you go. If you found an article from the Full Sail Library database, here you go. Okay, just copy. Because here's my promise to you. If I see that you're trying your best to follow APA, meaning you've either gone to projectapa.info and copied the references examples or the in-text citations example. By the way, they also have things like, what do you do if you have more than one author? What if there is no author? So there are answers for those things. As long as I see that you're trying APA format, and I can definitely tell that you're trying, I'm not going to make a big deal about the grade for APA. Okay, not going to take off a ton of points if there are several small problems. Where I will take off points is if you're just not following it at all. Okay, you're just making things up. Because sometimes I see students who do things like, here, let me open up a blank document. So it's time to create the references page. And they just say, oh, I need a reference. I have no idea how to make a reference, and I'm not going to look at any of the APA things that he mentioned in the lecture. So John Smith, the title of the article, they put it in quotation marks, even though it shouldn't be in quotation marks. And then they just make up a date format, November 15th, 2010, and then a website, right? And it's like, no, what is this? This isn't anywhere close to APA, so don't do that. Do you feel confident, the people who are here with me tonight, that you can either go to the Jeep example, okay, like this, or go to projectapa.info and either go to the in-text citations area and copy, or for references, go to the appropriate reference type and copy and do the same thing. Yes. Okay. Savannah says yes. Melody says yes. Good. Because next week we're going to get into the nitpicky details. Because really, I do need about 45 minutes. That's why I said next week. I don't mean to scare you. Please don't just not come because, oh my God, he's going to spend 40 minutes talking about APA. Like I said, it may not be sexy, but it is going to be useful. Because where's my cheap essay again? There it is. Right? Like next week, I'm going to open up a blank Microsoft Word document, and I'm going to show you how to do this. how to create the header, insert page numbers. I'm going to show you how to create the cover page and set up spacing, how to do paragraphing. And yes, along the way, I'm also going to talk about in-text citations. Like I'll find a quotation and we'll do it in real time. And same thing for references. I'll have a couple references or a couple articles on hand, and we'll just create references in real time. And yeah, we'll get into the further specifics, right? Like there are special capitalization rules for articles. It's a little bit different, etc. But yeah, I think you can mostly copy from the examples we have so far. And as long as you're giving it, pardon the pun, the old college try, good. I'm probably not going to take off many points at all, if any. It's when I see someone just making things up, just taking a website address and dropping it in and calling it a reference. That's where I start to raise an eyebrow. Okay, so yeah, take advantage of this bargain. Take advantage of this deal. Okay, I'm not going to really press much on APA perfection, but I do want to see you try. Okay, so this is what I want to cover for this week. So if you have questions, comments, feel free to ask away. If you do not have questions, you don't have to stick around. You are free to go enjoy the rest of your evening. I thank you so much for attending. We'll do this again next week. Same bad time, same bad channel, Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Next week will be entirely devoted to APA. Okay. Thank you, people. I'll hang out for a bit in case people do have questions. Good night, everybody, those who are leaving. And I think I kept things just under an hour. So yeah, good. Again, if I go over an hour, I lose people. Not saying I do everything perfectly, but there are other instructors. They go on for an hour and a half, hour, 45 minutes. And I'm thinking, how can you do that to people? Blaine, I'm pretty sure it's not next week. I think it's the following week. Between week 3 and week 4. Yeah, I'm actually positive now because it's like the 20th. We're somewhere in the 20s that we have off, and that's not for still more than a week away. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording because it doesn't look like people have questions. So for those people who are watching at home, thank you so much for viewing. Adios.